In this video, I'll be discussing color modes, spaces, and profiles. Go ahead and open the additive and subtractive Photoshop files, as well as Fruit JPEG. Let's start with additive color. This refers to the physics of direct light. That is, light coming directly out of your monitor and striking your retina. In the physics of light, we know that the three primary colors, red, green, and blue, combine together to form pure white light. The secondary colors here are cyan, magenta, and yellow. In subtractive color, the situation is 180 degrees opposite. And this is due to the fact that when you're looking at printed material, the light first strikes that surface before it goes into your eye. And when it hits a surface and illuminates it, some of the light wavelengths are absorbed by that material. So they're subtracted from the total light that enters your eye. So to differentiate the physics of this reflected light from direct light, we use what were the secondary colors now as the primary colors. So cyan, magenta, and yellow become the primaries of subtractive color, and red, green, and blue become the secondary colors here. In Photoshop, we represent this with the color mode. If you go up to the image menu, you'll see under mode that we have CMY color right here underneath RGB color. Go ahead and change this image to CMYK. You're prompted whether you want to flatten the image or not. Say don't flatten. Now we have 4 channels: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Black is the key channel that's added to make this system work in the real world. And this is due to the fact that no inks or pigments actually mix together to form pure black. The result when you add cyan, yellow, and magenta inks or pigments together is that you get something like a muddy brown. So we add a 4th channel to bring the reality of the situation closer to this color theory. And that kind of practical addition is not necessary when we're dealing with pure light. So this RGB image here only requires 3 channels, and yet printed materials require 4. Notice also that when I change this image from RGB to CMYK, that the colors shifted slightly on screen. Before, after. This is due to the fact that we're viewing this CMYK image with a different profile. It's referencing a different color space. That is, a different set of possibilities for displaying color. To really understand this, let's go to the Fruit JPEG. And go ahead and create a color sampler using the Color Sampler tool. On the options bar, select Point Sample so that you'll be sampling a single pixel. And then click on one of the oranges. That leaves a marker behind, and that's referenced over here in the Info panel. These are the values in the 3 RGB color channels. Let's just keep a mental note of these numbers. Then go up to the Edit menu and choose Assign Profile. Choose Profile and select ProPhoto. Notice what happens. The oranges become much more vibrant on screen in this different profile, and yet the color numbers remain the same. Let's try that again. Let's choose sRGB. Everything is much duller, less saturated, and yet the color of that particular pixel is identified with the same color numbers. So we have different possibilities of color in each one of these color spaces. sRGB is a very narrow gamut of color. That means there aren't very many possibilities in this particular space because it was designed for the lowest common denominator CRT monitor. And it's becoming, I guess, less relevant these days as more and more people have LCD monitors. But nevertheless, this is the most popular color space in the world, sRGB. ProPhoto has many, many more colors that are possible, and so we have more vibrant colors be represented in this particular space. I want to caution you, however, not to convert all of your documents to CMYK before you print them. The only time you would need to convert a document to CMYK is if you are planning on printing it on a professional 4-color offset printer. That is a printer that makes 4 separate plates, one for cyan, one for magenta, one for yellow, and one for black. And you might want to do this if you're printing a high volume of prints and you want very high quality. In all other situations where you have a desktop printer connected to your computer or in your office and you want to make a print, you're going to send your document to the printer in RGB color mode. And then the printer driver itself is going to convert that to CMYK or whatever the hardware supports. Some printers have 8 different ink cartridges, and leave that up to the printer manufacturer to do that hardware conversion. But for us in Photoshop, we're going to send our images to the printer in RGB mode all the time, with the only exception being when you're sending a document to a professional offset printer. That's when you're going to convert it to CMYK.